I'd like to welcome everybody. So, my name is Kim, and I come from a very small town in Canada on the eastern coast. And, I grew up a very sensitive child, the type of child that, was psychic, seeing spirits, all of this stuff. And I had many reasons to stuff that down. I didn't embrace who I was as a person, as a child. After I went to university, I decided that I wanted to leave Canada to get out and discover myself. And I'm really happy that I did. I went to Korea for 4 years, almost 5 years, and I was a teacher there. And as I was in Korea, I had a really nice opportunity to be able to travel around Asia to many different places. So I went all across Korea, including inside the tunnels of North Korea. And each place that I went to, I was able to visit different temples, work with the Buddhists a little bit, sit in Buddhist temples, and learn how to meditate, all this kind of stuff. But it was on kind of a surface level. I was just kind of beginning my journey as a spiritual person, or understanding that I was a spiritual person. Then I went to Australia, and I lived in Australia for 1 year. And for that year, I lived in a tent. And it was one of the most amazing years of my life, because when you live in nature and you're living literally laying down on the ground, you have no choice but to pick up Mother Earth vibrations. And so many things happened at that time that led me to spiritual experiences. It was wonderful, connecting with the animals and such. When I came back to Canada, I had decided that I was going to go to Africa. And the reason why was because I had a vision when I was a child of going to Africa. And I was told by an angel when I was young that I would go to Africa and help children. And so embarking on Africa, I got to meet all kinds of people. So spiritual meant something different every place that I went. But as I went there and I went to places like Brazil, I went to places like Peru, working with the shamans, being able to take in different perspectives of how they saw the world and how they saw spirituality changed me as a person. So I can say that I have been living in a world where I have been creating a new world and a new vision from a very young age. And if you think about it, even the job that I do is literally part of the new world. And I'm going to talk about that today. I'm going to talk about how we are embarking on a new world and how very, very important it is that we change something within us so that we can embrace the good that is coming and actually understand the good that is already here in the world right now. Some of us look at the world and we think, okay, there's a crisis. But hopefully after I speak today, you're going to think, wow, this is like a major, awesome shift that we're going through. And the changes that are happening in the world are just opportunities. So what is the new world? What is the new vision that I'm talking about? We are, as people, rising up, and we're going beyond what we call the 3D world. And we're going into the 5th dimensional world. And what's happening is the 3D world holds us in things like fear, guilt, shame, pain, negativity. But this is what we're getting beyond. The 5D world is where we release it. We let it all go. So that pain, that fear, that negativity, and we're letting it go in order to embrace an unconditional, heart-based way of living. So we're coming to a dimensional shift, which we're going to integrate into the new world. As people, we're getting past old, outdated truths. So truth that we thought was truth is different than the truth that we know today. And the truth that we know today is going to be very different 10 years from now. So what we're doing is we're merging with this new truth, and we're merging with the true self. So we have a belief system that no longer works with us. It doesn't apply to the world that we're walking into. We're having a gradual creation of the new physical world. We have patterns, beliefs, programs that do not serve us anymore. They're being challenged. Our thought processes are being challenged. And there's a reason for this, because we have a new evolved pattern and new truths to walk into, but our minds live, some of us, in a material world. And I can't even say some of us, because I know I'm also part of that material world. We're learning to get beyond our material world, the brain that looks at the outside of us to see that we are happy or we're not. And what we're doing is we're going inside and we're learning to go inside our unconscious selves in order to be able to create a new world which is aligned with our higher selves, our higher beings. The short of it is this: we are no longer going to be sleeping in this world. We're living in a world where we're going to be awake, and we have to be okay with that. And the more awake that we are, the more changes that we're going to make. But we've been waking up for a while. Think about 2012. Where were you in 2010, 2011? Were you one of these people who had, a thought of what's going to happen in 2012? Well, the Mayans had taught us that the world was going to shift, the world was going to change, and the world was going to end as we knew it. And we had songs growing up like REM, the song that says, it's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. So that song itself is talking about an earthquake. But if we are not in a world that is having an earthquake right now, then I don't know what to call it. 2012 was about a shift, a change. We were being called to something. And so many people took that calling seriously, and they made a shift and a change in their lives. And for those people that made a shift and a change between 2012 and now, they are on the right track. And for people who did sort of, a change, but not really, then right now they're feeling the need to have to change, but they're a little shaken up. So I want you to think 2012 in your head, and you take that 12 and you flip it around. And what do you have? You have 21. So 2021, 2012. Could the Mayans have been seeing 2012 and it was really about 2021? Or has it taken us 9 years to be able to understand that the shift had to happen, or the shift would happen for us? So the crisis that is happening in the world right now, if you want to look at it as a crisis, then think of it like it's happening so that we can make the shift that we were supposed to make in 2012. What is that shift? Well, it's a wake-up call. And a wake-up call is just a new perspective. It's a perspective change that changes everything around you. And if you think about a midlife crisis, that is a wake-up call. And a midlife crisis is not just happening to us as an individual. There's a midlife crisis happening to everybody in the world all at one time. So it feels a little bit wobbly when it's happening like that. But it's happening in a way that's making things shift, it's making things move, and like it or not, we're going to go to a new level. So we need to get ready for that level. But it's not as tough and as hard as it seems. It means that we're going to a new level of happiness, and we just need to learn to embrace that happiness. So it's not meant to be scary. But if you had a midlife crisis, what would be happening? You'd be saying, okay, what have I done in this world? Have I really done everything that I was meant to be doing? Have I, done the job that I'm meant to be doing? What is my purpose? Who am I? You'd be releasing and letting go of things that don't serve you. You'd be examining your life, adapting, and changing to a new way of thinking. You'd be embracing new abilities. New abilities. So what are our new abilities? Each time we shift, each time we change, what are they? Humanity is growing up. In a nutshell, we are evolving. So since 2012, we have evolved a lot. A lot of things have changed. A lot of good changes have come, and a lot has not changed. So it's like the world, the universe is evolving us for us because we didn't get to the level that we were meant to get at. So we are becoming the upgraded version of our own evolution. So an identity crisis is actually what we're going through. We have an identity crisis. Again, who am I? So who am I if I don't have a socialization, to go to? If I can't socialize with my friends, who am I? If I can't go to the store without a mask and show my face and, have an outer appearance to show to the world, then who am I? It's like we have been given an opportunity to stop applying ourselves to an outside world and to go inside and look at ourselves from a different perspective. We are moving from a logical mind to a heart-based way of living. Our logical mind looks at that outside world, that material world, and tells us this is happiness, that is happiness. Our unconscious mind, the mind of the soul, speaks to us in a very different way. It says, go inside, find your happiness, and happiness will appear in your outside world. It's two different ways of thinking. We are learning to love and care for ourselves when we're in an identity crisis because we're redefining who we once thought we were. We are doing inside work, inner work. Maybe this is inner child work. We are learning to accept ourselves. We are learning to appreciate those around us. We are learning to let go of expectations. This is very important because if we have an expectation of how the world should be or how things should go, then it's not going to work in the new world that we're walking into, because the new world is a totally different world than what we thought it would be. We are learning to reassess. So we're doing a reassessment. We're changing things based on what works and what doesn't. And so we need to find out what is working in this new world. And to do that, sometimes it means that we need to align or connect with those that are already living in that world. So we're ridding baggage. We're getting rid of what does not serve us anymore. We're examining behaviors, beliefs, and paradigms that frame our reality. So how do we live in an upgraded world? What's it going to look like? What's it going to feel like? How can I live in an upgraded world or an upgraded reality? We need to tap into our gifts, tap into our knowings, tap into the compass that is inside of us, that has been in us all of our lifetimes. And in these lifetimes, we have shut this intuition off, but we are opening up this intuition and we are going to learn to live from the heart. So science today, if you follow Greg Braden on Gaia.com, I suggest everybody to have Gaia. But Greg Braden will teach us that our heart is actually a brain. And if we learn to live from the heart again, and if we learn to think from the heart again, and I say again because we did in other lifetimes, we were more advanced in other lifetimes. We went down in our own personal inner technology, and now we're raising it back up again. As we raise our frequencies, we are raising our inner technology again to match the new world, which is actually matching the old world. So we are tapping into our gifts, and we're learning to understand what those gifts are. So when I teach psychic development, I teach that we have knowings, feelings, we have visuals, so we can see things. So we're able to see the future, we're able to predict the future. But the point of it all is that we got to stop trying to predict the future, and we have to learn to live inside this now time space, because the future time space is what we've been creating for this whole lifetime. We've been creating a future. We created the reality that we're in right now because we wanted a specific future. We wanted the material world, and we got it. So we're going to shift that. So what's happening is we are in a time frame where we're thinking this crisis is affecting me as an individual. But at the same time, we're realizing, no, it's affecting everybody. So it's shifting everybody. It's changing everybody. So we're looking at it like a personal shift versus a consciousness expansion, or an individual shift versus everyone else. But the truth is, we are living in a world that's balancing. And yes, everyone is upside down, but that's perfect. We are meant to be upside down right now. Again, 2012, 21, put it together. Going upside down means that we will pay attention, because when we were right side up, we weren't listening. So the time is now to make the shifts and the changes. Again, it is already happening, whether we like it or not. So what is the old versus the new? Our old way of thinking would be something like this: how can I make lots of money so that I can live my passion? The new version: how can I live my passion and make money too? It's just a perspective shift. So again, the old: how can the world serve me? The new paradigm says, how can I serve the world? The old: how can I get more things in order to be happy? The new paradigm shift is saying, how can I downsize? How can I let go of things and the worldly stuff that's happening, like news and just outer stuff that's taking up my time space, in order for me to have a lighter, brighter life and carry less baggage? So people are looking for less things in the future. The old told us eye for an eye. So if somebody hurts you, you hurt them back. If somebody takes your eye, you take theirs. The new is heart to heart. The old, competition. The new, cooperation. So Charles Darwin, taught us that competition is how the world works. And, the tough ones are the ones that go forward. The strong are the survivors. But what he wasn't realizing is that If he really, really studied the creatures on Mother Earth, he would have seen that nature cooperates with the animals. The animals cooperate with nature. If we look at animals and we watch them, they will take the weak, they will take the old, but they will balance what they are taking, and they will not take something that's going to nourish them in the future. They're thinking for their future. The old, take from the earth. The new, save the earth. The old is unmaintainable development. So development that we cannot maintain. The new is sustainable energy. So we've been already living in this new world. We've been thinking this way. We've been hoping for this. Now the difference is we're going to start taking action, and we're going to work in a way where we are moving into sustainable energy and learning not to take from the earth. The old way was just to take from the resources, take what we need, and forget about the future. We'll figure it out in the future. But the human race is finally at a tipping point. The scales are starting to tip, and they're tipping towards the positive. They're tipping towards hitting the refresh button, figuring out new ways, looking at new opportunities. So think about in the last year, how many people started doing things online, how businesses started doing things online. Okay, we could look at this as a materialism, or we could look at it as an opportunity. We're here today, online, we're working together, and technology is working for us. We're going to use it now for sustainable energy instead of having it for materialism that's going to just take from the earth. So what looks like chaos right now for some people is actually balance and order. So let's think about Darwin again. And he said that the strong get stronger. And if that is somewhat true, then we, as a human race, we need to think more positive and allow that to get stronger, but also work with cooperation, work with what we have, and be able to move it forward in a good way. How do you create balance and order for yourself? We are living in a world where we have an opportunity to begin to look at business, look at consumerism, how consumerism has affected us as a society. How many people actually realize that there's a neighbor next to them that is a farmer selling items that they could use? We are consumers going to grocery stores, and these grocery stores are getting rid of smaller businesses. And we want to blame the grocery stores for doing this. But it's us as individuals who are not supporting the farmers around us. And it is time that we look around and we think about who we can be supporting that is not necessarily part of that grocery chain. We have neighbors that we can be working with. We can offer our gifts to a neighbor, and the neighbor can give us an exchange of energy and help us. So the more that we support one another, the more that we support the small guy, the more the consciousness will change. And if you know somebody who is a farmer and maybe is selling organic food, let other people know about it. I think a lot of people know a lot of people, but not everybody is sharing the things that they should be sharing. So if you look at Facebook, people are sharing lots of negative stuff that's happening, but how many people are actually sharing the positive stuff and helping their neighbors know what's happening around them that is a positive? So we need to take responsibility as people and recognize that we have created this world, and we're also about to create a new world. Within this new world, We have a new age of children that are coming to the earth. There's a new age of child already here. We are one of them. So we're the adult children that came here as sensitive beings. We came here as indigos that are here to change the world. And the children that are coming today are going to be the rainbow children. Some crystals are still coming to the earth, but we're going to have star children and beyond and beyond. And those children are coming to change us. So we look at children and we think, wow, children are so materialistic. But who is buying the material for the children? We complain that children have cell phones at their school. But who is buying the cell phone for the children? It is the adults that are supporting the materialism, and it looks like the child is materialistic, but it is us as adults that are responsible for teaching them that they don't need these things. Because the more material that they have, the less they're going to go into their subconscious selves and change the world. So the more conscious we become, the more conscious they become, because how we act is how they act. So again, it's time to take responsibility and to recognize that children live in this world at this time, living what they know. So change what they know. We have an opportunity also to ask the children, with everything that's happening in the world, how did they see the world? There's separation or there's synchronizing. So we're either separating in our world or we're synchronizing. So if we are separating, then this means that we are pulling away from other people, all individual. But what the children are showing us is that they adapted quite easily to these shifts and these changes. They had no problem going online for the school systems or staying at home with their mom and dad. It was an easy shift, an easy change for them. It was us that had the problem with having to adjust our schedules. But it also gave companies an opportunity to look at parenting and looking at how important it is to maybe give some leeway to allow people within their company to be able to do things in a different way. This was a very important time period. And what I see is that companies will look at themselves now and they will think maybe Fridays we're going to stay home and we're all going to work from home. Maybe one day a week, maybe some of them are going to have some people at their workplaces that will be able to stay home. So people can adjust their lifestyles with their job and be able to do it on their own time. There's some valuable things that have been coming. I just want to talk about consumerism for another moment. Think about where you are in the world and what your reaction has been to this last year. This last year, there's been a lot of shifts, a lot of changes. And as we've been told that, okay, something's coming to your community, there's a virus, there's, things that are happening. And I'm not mentioning the virus because I necessarily believe in it as something that is against us or for us. I'm looking at it as a real valuable tool that we can use to be able to understand our shifts and changes. When the virus first came out, if you look at the different countries and how the countries reacted to what was happening, it showed us a lot about who we are as people, because we are a part of that. So I can't help talk about it without talking about Canada and the toilet paper shortage. So yes, there was a toilet paper shortage in Canada nationwide, because when the corona came out, the first thing people thought of was run to the store and buy all of the toilet paper. Quite literally, they had an impossible task to come up with another load of toilet paper because people were buying it in literally. I saw one guy bought it in a truckload and was selling it to his neighbors, making sure that all of his neighbors had toilet paper. I mean, what a thing to think of when there's a world crisis. Okay, so you look at other people and they were saying, okay, let's stock up, let's prepare, let's protect, let's gear up. So it was like a, come on, community, come on, family. It was like this, we're going to beat this. It was this mentality that they had. And then you had other people that were saying, wait a minute, what about my vacation? What about my ability to socialize with other people? Some people were thinking only on an individual level. So who were you during the crisis? Who was your family? How did you gear up for this? For me, when it came, nothing changed because I live a simple life anyway. I didn't have to pull away from people because I live in the now within my heart, and I don't go to a lot of places anyway because I don't need the material world in order to make me happy. So it didn't change a lot. Think about you. Did it change you completely? Or were you already in the zone of being in the now? Were you the person listening to the news? Or were you the person listening to positive broadcasts on some program and lifting your vibration, bringing yourself up to a positive way of thinking? It's very important to understand that where the world was at that time, we don't have to be a part of that. We can, as individuals, show other people to be calm, to go within by being calm and going within and teaching them to do the same. So how we react to a situation is how the world will be. Taking more opportunity to help yourself is going to be number one coming up in the future. Development, self-study, grow, get to know yourself. What are your mental loops? What are the things holding you back from shift and change? Do you live like this is your last day? Do you live to your fullest? Did you change your method of how you do things? What was working in the past is not going to work for us necessarily in the future. And the quicker that we change, the quicker the changes will happen in the world. And it will feel less fearful. And it will feel more like a positive challenge. And it will feel like an uplifted vibration where you feel inspired. You feel like positive and you feel like you can do anything. How do we shift our belief system? So how does a person shift their belief system? They need to face their inner self, which is sort of like that midlife crisis. They have to face their inner child, work with their mental loops. And a mental loop means that you end up coming to the same fear, the same sadness, the same loop that pulls you back each and every time. So if we can learn to figure out what is our mental loop, then we can see it ahead of time and we can change this and shift this. And if we can change how we feel, then we can literally change how we perceive inside and we can change the world around us. What we push down deep inside is coming to the surface. What we have not been looking at is coming up into the surface. And so we're going to be dealing with this. Be aware of what you support. Be aware of where you shop. Be aware of who you hang around. Be honest about the fact that the world that you might be complaining about is the world that you helped create. And the world that is out there now, we can also create it into a positive if we start seeing it as a positive. So we need to switch and we need to turn it around. If you think about the world, You think about the children of today. They are working from the third eye, and they are working from the crown chakra, which means that they have clear vision of what they want. The children of today know what they want. They know because they know. And there's no changing that because they do not work from a lower based way of thinking. We come from generations who worked from the lower chakras, who lived from the lower chakra way of thinking. So they may have been root or sacral based, coming from ego way of thinking. Could have been from ways of thinking based on wars. And, somebody taking from another. And those ways of thinking created fear, created all those things that sort of created a frequency match that went into our future today. But if you think about things like, we call it the dirty 30s in English. So the 1930s was a time period where people were working from the lower base chakras, but they were working very hard on working into their solar plexus. Industrialism was big at that time. It was powerful. People had industries, they had factories. And a lot of people at that time thought, wow, this is great. Until they realized, whoa, this means no real life. And being stuck in these factories was not good for their health. And so very quickly, between 1930s, working up to the 1960s, all of this changed. In a very short time period, people's mindsets said no to something. And because they said no, they made a change in the world. And by the 1970s, people were working from the heart. There were hippies in the world. They were saying no to war. They were saying no to the things that were not serving the world in a good way. And they also said yes to love. So not just saying no, but saying yes to what they wanted. And it wasn't just yes, they lived it. They lived inside the park. They lived their life. Okay, maybe it was drugs and rock and roll, but it worked for them at that time. And it was putting them in the heart-based area, which brought a new age child here into the world. And the new age child came at the late 70s and came in the 80s and onward. And that was the indigo child. And the indigo child came at a time in the 1980s where women were actually advancing in the workplace. Women were able to go into different positions that before only men dominated. And so there was a shift for the women. There was a shift for humanity that was happening. And so now we're in a time period where we've shifted our way of thinking. We're thinking now from this third eye point of view and this crown chakra point of view. And it's quite advanced in a very short time period. So from the 1930s to the 1980s, when things started shifting, that's only a 50-year time period where a lot of changes happened. And what has happened since the 1980s? I mean, I remember the ghetto blasters on your arm, walk around with the big ghetto blaster and music blaring, Twisted Sister saying, I'm not gonna take it. No, I'm not gonna take it. I'm not gonna take it anymore. Boom, 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 boom. Now I got to get my hair all messy and stuff to get the Twisted Sister look. But we had shifts and changes since then. So we're from the ghetto blaster and cassette tapes were the big thing back then. Then we had CDs. Well, now we have the USB. And where is it going to go from there? I mean, the technological shift has been tremendous. and how we do things has been tremendous. So we didn't have internet when we were children. And yet we're looking at each other now through the internet. I mean, isn't that amazing? That's an amazing advancement. So if we use that to our advantage and use it for positive only, then we can move things forward more quickly. Instead of thinking we failed because we're so technological, how can we teach people about farming? How can we teach people about Mother Earth? How can we teach people about animals, taking care of animals? How can we raise money for things that are going to help a sustainable world? Well, the internet is one of those possibilities. We have an opportunity to look at the whole world and say, okay, how do I fix my mental? How do I fix my physical? So we can learn about our bodies. How can I fix my spiritual? We can learn and find the teachers that are good for us, and we can reach people on all corners of the earth right now. And we can move into an emotional state and be able to create our world, our physical world, based on all of those things that we're fixing. And that's one of the things that I learned, not only from the Native community that I worked with. My grandmother is of Native culture. And so when I learned that my grandmother was part Native, and I had an opportunity to work with the Native people, I dug deep and to have an understanding of what it is that I came to Earth for. Why is this knowledge coming to me? And so by working with the Native people, they taught me to dig deep down inside and work with the mental, the physical, the spiritual, the emotional parts of myself in order to be able to find out who I am. And that's one of the first questions they asked me is, who are you? And I was like, I'm Kim, but who are you? So over time, I started learning more and more about who I am. And it's a general question if you think about it. But who am I in the world? Who am I when it comes to family? Who am I when I'm alone? Who am I when I'm with my friends? Who am I when I'm at the workplace? There are many variations of ourselves. And what I learned from the Native people, the Mi'kmaq, was that we should be the same person at all times. We shouldn't have to shift who we are because we're around other people. So who I am when I'm alone needs to be the same person that I am when I'm with my husband, when I'm with my best friend, when I'm with my mom, if I'm at a workplace. And so that's when I shifted my world and I said, who am I? Well, I'm definitely not somebody to be under some boss. And that's when I realized I am my own individual. I'm a person that's here because Spirit allowed me to be here. And when I realized that, I realized who I'm going to be, what I'm going to do in this world. It's not going to be for people. It's going to be for Spirit. Recognizing the fact that I am a living spirit walking on the earth today, but I'm connecting with people that are living spirits that are here on the earth today. The body that we have is just a borrowed vessel that we have to be able to use, to be able to bring light to the earth and to bring that light into a consciousness and an awareness for other people so that they can realize also that they are a spirit, that they are here on earth as a spirit walking on earth to bring love, to bring light, to take responsibility, to be able to work with Mother Earth in a beautiful way, to protect her, to help her so that she can sustain the energy here for all living creatures, not just us. So Mother Earth can sustain the energy here for all living creatures. The shift that is happening is not just happening to us. It is happening to the flowers. It is happening to the trees. The shift of awareness is happening to the water, to the earth, to the insects. The shift in awareness is happening to the winged ones, the birds, the ones that crawl on the ground, the bugs, insects, the snakes. The shift in awareness happened. And if you remember, one of the first things that happened last March was that the dolphins came to Venice. When the world stopped, the crisis began. The animals felt a new vibration. And the dolphins, to me, are a very important sign, not just of playfulness, but they also represent sound, and they connect to vibration, and they teach us something. So a new vibration was already being sent out into the airways, and the animals were responding. We are at a beautiful, beautiful time in our existence. And we can look at it as something that brings us down, or we can look at it as an opportunity where we can make change. Because there's only one thing that is sure. The one thing that is sure in this world is that change is inevitable. Change is coming. Change is already here. Change has been happening for many years already. And it's time now that we tune into our heart. It's time for us to listen to our soul, to tap into the spirit that is inside of us and connected to us, and to ask from the upper channels, who am I? Who am I? Am I here to change the world? Or am I here to be the change in the world? Maybe we can put our hands up. We can put our hands up and we can allow ourselves to be that change in the world, to send out the vibration of love, send out the vibration of peace, harmony, joy, wisdom, strength, hope, knowledge, understanding, unconditional love. What is love? Love is unconditional. It has no expectations. And love has no attachment to the outcome. So we need to be in the here, in the now, in order to feel true, unconditional love. And when you are in the here and you are in the now, you are tapping into your unconscious mind, which is the mind of creation. And when you tap into the unconscious mind and focus on what is whole, what is pure, what is innocent, then you will create a new world where new babies can come in, and we can allow them to create the world that was intended to be created. Follow their lead and they will help you get lost. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Many blessings, many joys, many changes, many unconscious creations to you and you and you. Namaste.